Okay, so as you know, we'll be doing a build on the Traxxas UDR, making it quite strong, and to my surprise, some parts arrived. Literally just talked about these yesterday with the supplier, and today they're like, you won't believe it, some stuff has arrived. So there's something coming with the Traxxas UDR. There's a hobby shop next to my office, and I actually passed by to look if they've got these markers. And I wanted these because they're permanent paint markers to mark the tires and things like that and get them the color I want. But I noticed this little guy, and you guessed it, it's a LC79 model. I believe all the lights and everything work, which is really cool. And we're going to do a build on this, a small mini build, while we're waiting for the rest of the Traxxas parts to arrive. So I'm going to wait for everything to come through before I do a build, because I don't want to open and close and open and close. Let's just do it all at once in one video. So that's coming. But this is something I'm going to get to work on today. And I'm not going to do much. It's a very simple car, and it's got leaf springs, and these are friction shocks over there. So I've got some oil-based, oil-filled shocks. I'm just going to put a bit of thicker oil and put those shocks over here. Those shocks are for the TRX4 Mini, but they look about the size that I think they're going to fit. So this is the car with its original friction shocks, and it's just so bumpy and bouncy, and we had to do something about it. So I had some shocks lying around, and they're the upgrade shocks for the TRX4M, and I used them initially in the Jimny build, but then I upgraded those to the Air Racing shocks. So they were free, and I decided I'm going to use them in this build. So it's going to be nice. It's going to be the first stage of this small build, and we'll see what we'll do as we go along. We might actually change the suspension, the 4-link at the front, to iron more free, stronger rods, but we'll see what will happen. Time will tell. Okay, so UDR aside for now, let's focus on this Landcruiser 79 MN. And I just took it for a short drive, stock standard outside, and that's a clip that you saw just before this. What we are going to do is a small build. Very easy, very easy to do, and minimal effort in this build. I'm not even going to change the motor or anything like that. Maybe I won't even change the battery. I might not, depending on how it goes. But this is just a small side build, and it's got a very nice small servo under there. If I shine the light on it, you can actually see it. Might just have to lift up the truck slightly. There we go. I don't know if that's metal geared or not, but I know both diffs are metal geared. So the first thing we're going to change over here, if I move the flashlight so you can see, is those shocks. Those are friction shocks, and it's literally just a spring. There's no oil, there's no dampening really apart from the spring, and it's very bouncy. It's a less refined ride. And one thing I noticed, if I turn this upside down just so you can see, I'll lean it on this box over here. There we go, the light's shining nicely. This drive shaft, I don't know if it's supposed to be out a bit more or what, but I mean, if you push it down in the center, that it can't actually compress, but it can compress on the sides. Maybe that's how they designed it to be, but for me personally, if I want to put a small load, it should be able to at least compress a bit. So we're going to do a slight modification over there apart from changing the shocks. At the front we'll have the TRX4 shocks with the springs, and they are the shocks that you see right here. I had actually bought them ultimately for my FMS Jimny build, but they worked for a time period, but I got proper nice racing shocks, and they work even better. They're fantastic on their Jimny build. Okay, and there you have it. Our first TRX4M shock is installed. Okay, so knowing these FE builds videos, someone's going to buy this truck and they are going to want to do what I have done. Please note, when taking out the original shocks, there's a bit of a groove there. So you need a technique to sort of pop the shock out of that groove on the holder. You can see the holder at the top and the holder right down there. Try and put my torch down and just point it out. So right there, you need to pop the bottom part of the shock off that. On top, it's just a straight piece. So what we are actually going to do is, put the TRX4 shock over here. We're going to make these holes slightly bigger. Okay, so just to demonstrate this to you, that shock sits in there nicely. It can move freely. You can see the bottom, and if I move the top, you can also see the top moves freely. So the shock is able to compress easily without any issues. Okay, so the back is finished. We put a single stage spring at the front, which works very well. It's back to where it's supposed to be, and the dampening is perfect. It's so smooth. Now at the back, the problem we had was that this piece over here was basically sitting on that, so there was no travel directly down. So if you load a weight in it, all the weight is sitting there. So we used dual stage springs and oil shocks, and we've got that much more down travel now at the back if you load something heavy in it, and then at the back you can freely still move the springs. Okay, so this is the new setup with the new shocks, the oil-filled shocks. Much better, much smoother motion. It's not as bouncy as it was before. Okay, so what you see now is like any normal vehicle, Landcruiser 79. If you put heavy duty springs and it's not loaded down, it will be quite a rough ride, but it's much smoother than what it was before. It was just like wiggling around with the springs, and that energy of the springs wasn't contained. But now it's much smoother, especially when you see it in person. And when you load up the back of this LC79, then you really see the dual stage springs that we added in come to life. Initially we weren't going to add springs to the dampeners at the back, but we noticed there was a bit of a problem where all the weight was sitting on the prop shaft, so we put dual stage heavy duty springs so that that back area or that back diff can be lifted off and the stress can be lifted away from that prop shaft and can spin freely. So you'll see, we'll do a test now where we load up the back with stones and we drive it around, and you'll see how smooth it is. not a Landcruiser if we can't load it up with some weight at the back. So let's just grab some of these stones, bring them in there with some dirt. See if the concept works of the dual stage shocks, the spring and the oil shocks. Okay. It's about a full load. Let's just switch this into low range mode. It's got a full load at the back, like a Landcruiser should have. If you use it for what it's built for. And you can see those dual stage springs working. And we'll do one drive in normal speed and one in slow-mo. But this is our closing video. That's the modification of the shocks, fitting the TRX4M shocks on the MN82 Landcruiser 79.